Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now, it's real time.
Welcome back, everyone. We have Chris Bertopoulos here in the studio talking winter steelhead this morning. Chris, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, too.
Now, I know that it's...
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Anytime that we have you get an opportunity to get you in, because you don't spend a lot of time on the water on the weekends.
Yeah.
So we get lucky that we're able to get him in here on a Saturday, because you're in the midst of fall Chinook fishing right now. Silvers are around, chum are around. Are you drift boating it only, or do you take the big boat out?
I'll be drift boating it through this month till right after Thanksgiving, a trip or two, and then taking December off, and then I start looking for steelhead.
Okay, yeah. So we'll
right
start
after
there.
Christmas.
We'll start. Okay, so right after Christmas. Is that the professional side of you that does it after that, or is that just yourself included? That's
my personal fishing starts happening right a little before Christmas. I start looking around, and then right after Christmas, and then I'm going to start guiding. So business-wise, I get going about the 5th or 7th of January usually.
Okay, that's when you get into full swing.
Yeah.
Now, for everyone's info, why is that in particular that you would wait until, is that when you know that you're going to give your clients the best opportunity, or is that just
like you had mentioned before a little while ago, we don't have steelhead in good numbers right around Thanksgiving anymore.
Right.
It's kind of pushed off a little later, especially with some of our broodstock programs that we have.
Sure.
So for me, that's a time to do some R&D, to do some looking around, have some fun, go fishing with some friends.
Yeah.
And then when things when the fish runs start showing up, the hatchery runs start showing up, usually, that first week or so of January, that's when I get on the water with clients and start doing my trips. Is
there something that would trip your trigger? Say it's the middle of December and it starts, you're thinking, okay, the river conditions are really good. Is the date more important than river conditions at that time?
Yeah.
What is it that you look for?
Water conditions are more important.
Okay.
I mean, you can be 3 weeks into peak season, and if you don't have good water, your chances are limited.
Sure. And
so water conditions are just about everything. And that's what I tell my clients when they book trips this time of year, especially new clients. It's like, you got a great date, but let's just keep our fingers crossed that the water conditions are cooperative, because that's important.
What happens in those situations, though, with your clients? Say it blows out or it just drops too low. Do you postpone? Do you cancel? What do you do?
Fortunately, I have a lot of rivers that are doing different things at different times. We've got bigger rivers, smaller rivers, so that gives me some flexibility. Like if we've had a period of low water, I can go a little further north and get on a river that's going to have some water in it, and I could fish, or go over, a little closer over your way, maybe fish the Sandy.
Sure.
Or if we've had periods of lots of rain and high water, I can go fish the smaller rivers.
Sure.
And even get a drift boat on them, or upper stretches of the river. So I have some flexibility there, but every once in a while I got to cancel on people.
Okay.
And it's just the nature of the game.
Well, yeah, it's understandable. I mean, obviously, you got to have good opportunities. You don't want to go through the motions.
I'm not going to take people fishing on a rising river.
So, first thing I'm going to say is that's a true professional, everyone, because there's a lot of really good, cool dudes out there that might not think of it that way. I mean, it's really unfortunate, but it is true. Okay, so you kind of alluded to the fact, though, you got to be flexible. You got to be willing to move from one spot to the next. I had just mentioned, apparently, and I don't know if you were on the coast at all this past week. There was one river in particular I just showed you that it was just insane. And then, guys that kind of know what they were doing roll into the parking lot and go, and go to a different system, and they never saw anybody and caught fish all day. Now, different concept, different fish that they were running across in certain situations, but I think a lot of people overlook that, right? They're so focused on, okay, I'm going to go here. No matter what happens, I'm going to go fish here. So would it be good advice to say be willing to be flexible and maybe make a move?
Well, having some different rivers that in your arsenal is important, and being flexible is important. There's the argument that, well, I know this river better than any other, and I know the spots, and I know where they might be hiding, even in a high water situation. But if that river's rising, your chances are limited.
I mean, they just don't want to bite anyway. But yeah, it makes things very much more interesting. Doesn't matter what species it is, either rising river, doesn't even matter what size river it is, Willamette or something small. That rise is definitely tough. Okay, so you brought in 2 rods. Before we get to how he likes to go after it on his own, say with friends or whatever it might be, solo trips. Do you ever go fishing by yourself? You just go
Yeah.
fishing?
Once in a while.
All right. I do that a lot. I prefer that personally. But this is his two primary ways that he gets his clients into winter steelhead. And Ryan, just keep me honest here. Because we got plenty of time, everyone. I want to cover as much of this as I can. But you brought in two rods. So two different setups for your clients. Number one, what's the first one that you generally grab with your clients each day?
Well, bobber dogging's a big part of my routine, and the biggest part of my routine. For good reason. Yeah, for good reason. It's fun, it's easy. It's easy for beginners to somewhat master even on a first day.
Sure.
You know, you watch the bobber go down, you reel in, set the hook, fish on.
Sure.
It's, you know, it's visual because you got a bobber.
It's one of the reasons why we all love it so much.
It's easy for a beginner or an expert alike.
Sure.
And so I've got a 9'3" G Loomis rod here, one of the new IMX Pros. I've got it set up with a 3000 style Shimano reel.
That's the Vanguard, right?
That is the Vanford.
Vanford. Gotcha.
3000. And on it, I've got 20-pound Berkeley Fireline. I've been using Berkeley Fireline forever for steelhead, and I think every steelhead reel I have has some form of Fireline on it.
Is 20-pound your pretty much go-to number?
Mostly, bobber and jig, I like 14 pounds.
Okay.
And then some of my salmon stuff that I do with spinning reels, I like the 30-pound.
Interesting.
And Fireline works out well on a spinning reel.
Gotcha.
It always has for many, many years.
Sure.
So to this 20-pound Fireline, I've got an Albright knot tied to about 10 feet of Seagar fluorocarbon. That's my bumper, if you want to call it that, or top shot, if you
and
want to call it that.
And what's the poundage on that?
That is 17 pound.
Okay.
17-pound Seagar. I think I said 20, but it's actually 17.
Okay.
And I've got myself a Bomac bobber with a corky and a beading. Got the bobber stop on there. B&R Products makes this T-stop here, as you might be able to see that little T-stop there, and I use it for lots of different things. That's for putting in your bead so it doesn't slide, but it also is a bobber stop on the downside here to keep it from, like if you break off and you break off right here, then I don't always lose my bobber.
Which is important.
It saves my bobber a lot of times. So that's another use for
Brandon, a great design. We
yes,
told you
sir.
that years and years and years ago, and there's multiple uses for it, man. He's a genius, by the way, and his brother.
And his brother, the veterinarian.
Yeah, there you go.
and
an engineer.
And an engineer, exactly. Good guys, both those guys. Anyway, I've got a three-way swivel on there and a Bomac stick weight, which I cover up with some heat shrink tubing.
Okay, now that was my next question. Now that for a lot of us that are bobber doggers, right? I've been doing this for a bazillion years. That might seem a little bit different than what some people are using. Now, of course, the Dave's Tangle Free, the P-line balls as well. They're very, very popular. There's reasons for it as well. There's also a reason why folks like Dwayne England and others that have made these stick weights very, very popular, yourself included. Why do you prefer a stick weight as opposed to, say, one of the balls?
Practically Teflon.
Okay.
I can go all day on certain rivers that are less snaggier than others. I can go all day without losing a sinker.
Right.
Unless they cast it in the trees. If they get it in the trees,
you ever have clients do that?
Yeah.
I wonder.
If they get in the trees, I might lose it. But in the river, these things are Teflon. And certain rivers are better than others. It just depends on how rocky they are, how much debris they have.
Sure,
so
what that covers.
But, I mean, there's been a number of days on the Wilson or the Nestucca where I can go all day with fishing all my bobber dogging rods and not lose a sinker.
And, you know, it's interesting that you say that because 9 out of 10 of us, we're not going to say that. I mean, it just happens. You lose them. Okay, before we go any further, from the swivel and his Bomac weight down, we want to cut to a quick break, all right? When we come back, we're going to continue to talk with Chris Mitopoulos about how he likes to target steelhead with his clients, and now we'll just kind of work our way down, and there's a bead on there. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Don't go.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive new Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.